All right, so we're live. We've been live already. Thanks for being patient, waiting around on I'm sure, a very busy day, night, in orbit, wherever you are. And we're going to go ahead and get started, though. This is our last week in Accountability Immersion Training. So if you're in the training, which you may not be, but if you are, congratulations. You've made it to literally, like, I'm filming this on the last day. That's insane. And you've actually made it to this point. You're still even listening to these live streams. That's insane. You're insane. So just congratulations. I just really want to acknowledge you for everything that you've done, that I know you've done, like following through on your assignments and your coaching sessions and showing up for all the trainings and everything. And then everything I have no clue that you've done, all the breakthroughs and all the gritting of your teeth and all the just the dealing with your own patterns and getting past them. I know it's not easy, especially in this training. This is a tough one and it's not always fun. So that said, this is the Accountability Immersion Training live stream for week 8. And the purpose of these live streams is that I fill in the blanks for you. I fill in the cracks. I give you that extra information or motivation or the stories behind why this stuff works, how it works, and what you might be missing if all you do is do all the assignments and follow the content and the learnings that we present to you in the training itself. That's really the idea here, is to give you everything that you need. And we're going to talk today about really the final kind of coup de grace, the cherry on top of the accountability spectrum, the accountability discipline, if you will, of coaching, and what accountability actually brings your clients. This is almost, in a way, more for your clients than it is for you. I mean, it applies to you, but what I'm going to share with you today is something I want you to really pass on to your clients, but it starts with you. And it's really what we've discovered, I think, and worked on throughout this training, is that the truth is that everything we give to our clients, especially as accountability coaches, kind of does start with us, because it's really, really hard to offer your clients something that you don't have using the accountability discipline, because this isn't like a good sales pitch. This isn't like a really good publicity move. The optics on accountability kind of sucks. I mean, you see it nowadays, especially in the crises that we go through currently, and maybe in the time that you're watching this years later in the utopian paradise or dystopian wasteland that we've become, whoever knows what that will be. But, the more we actually address accountability for ourselves or for people around us or for our cultures or for our societies, like, the less popular we tend to be, right? Now, there is a certain level of like when we blame a person or blame a group or blame each other, that can get a lot of attention, if nothing else. May not always be popular. Kind of depends on how that comes through. But accountability is not exactly one of those popular subjects right now. I mean, nobody but you is actually in this conversation right now. Let's put it this way. You are alone in a way. And sometimes I am too. So, but the point with this is that if you want to get your clients to actually get the power that comes with what they can get from accountability coaching that you offer them, you can't just be a good pitchman. You can't just be a real good car salesman, because this car don't sell very well. Right? It's like saying, you're going to kind of work hard. You're going to swallow your pride. You're going to be generous with others, even the people that you don't like that much and that kind of, anger you. You're going to clean up your side of the street way before you ever expect anything from anybody else. And you're just going to take it on the chin over and over and over and over again. And then you're going to have power in your life. Like, who wants to hear that? Who's going to, like, how are you going to spin that so positively such that people are going to be like, yeah, tell me more. Like, I want to do that. That's the way I want my business to go. That's the way I want my life or my relationships to get to happen. Like, nobody's interested in that. Right. So the only way that you really offer the power of accountability is what we talked about in the first couple live streams, is that you live it yourself first, and then you have the capacity to give it away, because people are actually listening when someone who's done, 10 million a year in business for the last 5 years says, you know what, you need to figure out, you need to learn how to make your own bed. Like, that's what you need to learn how to do. And people are like, what are you talking about? And like, what does making my bed have to do with my success? And that individual can say, well, I'll tell you, it has everything to do with that. And I know it because until I was able to make my own bed, I didn't have the potential, I didn't have the capacity to build this $5 million, $10 million a year business. Well, now that's easy for me to hear now, because I'm like, wow, that person with that business said that, then okay, I'm in. Like, I'm all over that, right? But coming from somebody who hasn't really taken ownership of that yet, who hasn't lived that out, hasn't used accountability technology to the point where it's been a proving ground for their own life and their own, like, or at least aspects of their own life, hard sell. Really, really, really hard sell. And that's, by the way, why we don't coach people in this way, at least, who haven't already like bought into coaching, we haven't already gotten really great rapport with, they haven't already like paid our fee, they haven't already actually stepped up to the plate and said, look, I'm committed to taking the coaching. At a minimum, you got to have that, right? Now, yes, there are some people who, you know, if you do this in a complimentary session, they're still going to be up for it. They'll be like, wow, that's what I needed to hear. You know, I'm all over that. I just got a client the other day and he's totally like that. You know, I really got in his face like this week. I think, yeah, it was this week. Half hour just got on him about, you know, him not showing up in the way he said he would and not being his word, and just how he's going to have no results from coaching, just all this kind of stuff. And he was like, this is really good. Like, he literally said, this is really good. Guy's a multimillionaire, very successful real estate investor, built, you know, a $1 billion Brazilian computer company that he still has interest in. I'm just a mover and shaker of the world. Sometimes it's just work with those clients, right? And, you know, more often than not, those higher level clients actually eat this stuff for breakfast because they get it. Even if they're not living it, they get it intellectually, because at some point they actually probably were living it. They saw the results come to them, right? So the point of today is, like I said, it's just as much for your clients as it is for you. And it starts with you and then it gets to your clients. But even if nothing else, you share this with your clients, they're going to be excited about it, because I think this is the most exciting part of what you can get from the accountability principles that we've learned and taught and shared and coached each other with throughout accountability coach training. So expanding, increasing your power. That's what we're talking about here. So how do you do this? How do you grow your power beyond you? Like, during accountability, chances are figured out how to like get yourself to, like I said, make your bed, right? Get yourself to like do the basics, take care of things that you've been blowing off for years. And that's awesome that you've done that. But I think you probably will notice it's like, hey, that's powerful. Like, I can do this and this and this. That's like Tony Robbins always likes to call this like personal power. It's the power to take action, and you've gotten that power now. Like, lovely, right? But, and that's a huge prize on its own, from what you glean from your accountability coach or coaches, and any accountability program that you might be a part in that really is regimented enough to get you to follow through, right? So that's exciting. That could be very exciting. But how do you go beyond that? Because if you just get yourself to do some things, doesn't necessarily mean your life is going to be different. It could be certain very specific actions. If you just do like that one thing, your whole entire life will be different. And like I said weeks ago, like, when you look back in your life and you realize, gosh, if I just asked for that one thing from that one person that one time, and I had these attitudes and considerations about why I shouldn't, or why they would say no, or just any of that kind of story, I could have had my life from that. My whole life would have been like handled, complete. It's devastating. It's just devastating for you when you realize that. So sometimes, every once in a while, just what you've already gleaned for yourself out of probably getting great accountability coaching from your coaches, you know, that can be life-changing. And we hear that from you sometimes during accountability immersion training. You'll say, gosh, I'm so much more productive, or I finally started that business, or I finally left that person, or I finally, you know, made the first dollar. I finally got the date, you know, this, whatever, right? It's like I finally, because why that was is because there was one stupid ass action that you needed to take and you haven't been taking for years because you had some story about it, and then your coach finally got you past that story. So yes, that could change your life. That's really powerful. But I'm here to tell you that that is nowhere near the kind of power that you can get from this technology, and it's nowhere near the kind of power that you can give to your clients using this same technology as well. So let me explain. I'm gonna give you this kind of how-to in like 2 paragraphs, okay? But I can't get it. Okay, here we go. But the way I'm going to share it with you is I'm going to read from our wonderful accountability coach training manual. And so you've already got access to this if you're a student. I've got this meaningfully sticky noted, so I can get to the right page here. This is in the, okay, I'm just losing everything as I try to maneuver around. Not enough room. Not enough power here. Okay, speaking of power. All right, so this is it. I'm going to give you the entire answer. So if you don't watch the rest of this video, the rest of this live stream, fine. But I'm going to read it to you. But I'm telling you, when I read this to you, you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna understand it. I'm just gonna. I mean, and what I'm going to share here in writing. This is all in the red. Is what you would share with your client as well from our manuals. I'm going to share how increasing your power actually works. And then we're going to take the rest of this video so you can actually understand it, because there's no freaking way you're going to understand this. And I also want to, I'm going to get myself off the hook here, because why would I read this to you if you're not going to understand it? First of all, the reason is because I want to give it to you short. I'm going to want to give you the quick version first. And the second reason is because it kind of opens up the premise for the entire conversation we're about to have. But I'm getting myself off the hook because these are not my words. These are the words of our model for accountability coaching, Meg Fritton. You can still find out there coaching people today. Hire her. She's an amazing coach. And I stole these words from her. And we still use these words to this day. This is from the kind of the book of Meg, if you will. Book of our ultimate model for accountability coaching. So this is what increasing your power really takes. Here we go. And again, this is Meg. But I'll read in my voice. If I am the CEO, she's talking about like, people around you that have the power to give you what you want. So she's using this kind of story of the great CEO who's got all the money and the power that can give it to you, that you need to you need to influence them, right? For you to get what you want. Makes sense? And by the way, again, this is not, for some of you, that's exactly what this is. I need that CEO's attention. For some of you, it's the guy or girl that you want to marry, right? Or for some of you, it's that, it's to get the right personal trainer, or it's to find that guru who's going to help you and get you past where you are currently. You get the idea. It's that source of power for you. Most of the time, it's another individual or a group, but there's other ways you might think of this. So coming back to this, if I'll try not stopping this time. If I'm the CEO and I tell you that I will give you $1 million if you get this done, meaning you get done what you promise, right? If you're your word, if you get this done by when you said you would get it done, by when you promised, would things have gone different for you? This conversation is assuming that you screwed up. You blew off the session. You showed up late. You broke your word. You squandered your promises, right? This is what's typical for the clients that you're going to work with, by the way. I don't care where they come from, how much power they have. This is usual. Would things have gone different for you? Yes. Then knowing that, because again, every time we ask this, like, hey, if I give you $1 million, could you have gotten this done? Everybody always says yes. It's because all the excuses, all the reasons why not, all the stuff that stopped them, all of a sudden doesn't stop them when it's worth it to them, when it's worth $1 million, right? Then knowing that, why don't you relate to your word like it's worth $1 million? I know that you let your circumstances dictate how your life is going to go. Yes, let your circumstances get in the way. You've got your excuses, your story. I'm elaborating. You get the idea. Do you have power in that? In your life, does this work for you to have your circumstances dictate how your life is going to go? Now, no one says yes to this, of course, as you can imagine. Like, to have your circumstances in your life dictate your life, and you're just a slave to circumstances. I mean, we're seeing this right now in our society. I mean, maybe not when you're watching this like 100 years later in the archives, but right now in our societies, like, people are pissed. They're devastated. They're dead because their circumstances dictate how their life goes. And there's all sorts of reactions to that, right? Whether it's trying to run away from a disease or, having a certain group of people having unfair power over you. We could go on and on and on. I mean, this is not exactly like a new story, okay? Does it work for you to have your circumstances dictate how life goes for you? That's the idea. You've proven that it doesn't. I can tell you that if I promise myself in the morning that I'm going to get something done today, I will stay up till as late as I need to, late as I have to, because I'm being my word to myself. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Number one, if I can't be my word to myself, how can I be my word to anyone else? I can't even be my word to myself. How can I be my word to you? Number two, if I can't be my word to anyone else, then how can I be my word to that CEO of that company? It just starts like that. It starts small and it gets bigger. It starts like that. It starts small, being your word to yourself, being your word to other people, and then it gets bigger, being your word to that CEO, increasing your power. Your word goes above everything else. It's the only thing that gives you any freedom and control at all of these levels, really. And I'm elaborating there again. That's it. That's the whole point. That's everything that you're going to need to get from this live stream, from this video. So if you got it, goodbye. And I know you didn't get it. I guarantee you didn't get it. Even if you're like, yeah, I understand the words, it totally makes sense. Yeah, you start with yourself and then it goes beyond that. You still don't get how that actually happens. And so for the rest of this video, I'm going to offer that to you. So I'm going to give you a little story from how I learned this and actually how I experienced this, because it is it's something that is what I've noticed is that it takes years for this to actually kind of work out. Not for everybody, but for me, it definitely has or did. And so it feels like geologic time going by as you're actually working with this stuff. You really got to kind of believe in it in a way. And it's not like something to believe. It's not like, oh, well, this is some dogma you have to buy into, right? But I've found that if the more I buy into it, the more I'm willing to actually continue to play that game. And the more the game can actually work for me. It's not real. The stuff I just shared with you, it's not like true. We literally made that up. But we also notice that that tends to be the case, especially when we actually treat it like it's the case. Call it, self-fulfilling prophecy if you want to, but this does tend to work out. So when I first learned this technology, accountability technology, I shared this a couple live streams ago. I was coached. I was coached by Meg Fritton, my accountability coach, my first accountability coach. And the first thing I learned to do was follow through. Now, I thought I was an action taker. Like you may actually think you're an action taker. I did everything I wanted to do. I did everything I thought was important to do. I did everything I agreed with doing. But I really wasn't. And I wasn't getting results in my life or my business. And yeah, I knew there was other things I could have been doing, but I didn't agree with those things. I didn't want to do those things. I felt those things weren't right for me or they didn't work for me. I thought those things were maybe not fair. I had all these other stories about those other things that I wasn't doing. So yeah, I was really motivated. I was a big action taker on some things, like probably 90% of what I needed to do. And there was that 10% that I needed to do, but I didn't know that I needed to do it. I knew what it was. I knew about it, but I didn't get that those were things I needed to do as well. My coaches told me I needed to do those things. My gurus told me, the books told me I need to do those things, but I don't get that. I don't agree with that. That's not for me. That's not right. I had all my stories, all my explanations, all my likely kind of justifications for just blowing that stuff off, right? So I learned from my coach how to do one thing. It's literally one thing that I learned how to do. How to do what I didn't want to do. The thing that she was telling me to do, I was not going to have any benefit whatsoever from, as far as I could tell. And yet she got me to do that. And when she got me to do that, suddenly it was possible for me to do anything I needed to do to get what I wanted, to produce my results that I was after, not just the things I felt like and that was, easy at the time, or that, I thought I was motivated to do, I was interested in. I got to do the things I wasn't interested in. I hated, I disagreed with, I thought was stupid. But I knew the world around me was pulling me to do those things as well. And so I actually started doing those things, and suddenly I started getting better results, like you probably have in this training, if you've been going through this training. So that's the beginning of power, though, not the end. What some of our students think by the end of this training is, oh, that's it. I got everything I needed. I can take action. I can do whatever I need to do. Even if I don't want to do it, I'm good. I got all the power I need, right? And by the way, that may be enough for you. You may be happy with that, and more power to you if that's the case. But there's two things that are going to be limiting to you. Number one is there's plenty that you're not going to produce just by doing that. Tons, right? Because you really haven't mastered the commitment process. You just mastered your ability to follow through on what you commit to. That's not the entirety of mastering commitment. And then second, you're not going to be very powerful with your clients in getting them to take this on either. So your power will be stifled. You will not increase your power past what you've gotten to and through in this training. And then second, there's going to be plenty of clients that you just can't get through to, no matter how amazing you are with the languaging of the accountability conversation. Got it? And again, if you don't agree, that's perfect. I'm glad you're here, because we're not here to talk about things that you and I agree on. If you agree with everything that I tell you, then you're wasting your time listening to me, because you already get it. Like, you're already on board with it. Now, maybe you didn't get it all until I said it, and then you're like, okay, now I agree. That's fine, but I really don't care if you agree. This is not about you agreeing with anything. This is not about you believing anything. Like I said, it can be helpful to believe it, can create momentum, but it's not the end all be all. I didn't believe I needed to do or should do what my accountability coach, Meg Fritton, was having me do, and yet I did it, and that changed my life. It's the things you don't believe, in a way. Isn't that weird? It's like paradoxical. It's the things that you don't want to do. It's the things that you don't buy into that actually produce the real result. We talk about this in Commitment to Leadership Mastery in Module 2 of Effortless Enrollment Mastery. Not just can you follow through on what you already are open to following through on, not just can you be open when you're open, because everybody says, like, hey, I'm open-minded. I'm really open-minded, right? Can you be open when you're closed off? Can you actually make yourself follow through, be open, take something on as if it's real, even when every bone in your body says, this is not real, this is not okay, this doesn't work. There's no freaking way in hell I'm going to do it. Then that's power. So, like, if we talk about our conflicts that we're having in society today, we got, people choosing sides, right? That's the regular thing, right? And so you could say, well, hey, I'm open, and I'm on the side that's open. I'm on this side that's open-minded to the new thing, or open-minded to that we shouldn't think this or that, whatever, right? But at the same time, you're like, those other people on that other side, they're not like us, like open, and I can't believe they did that, and I can't understand how they would do that, and what they did was wrong, or what they said was wrong, or they don't understand, they're stupid, or they're harmful, or whatever. Talking about how open you are. I think there might be a horse in there somewhere. Maybe. And isn't that the way it is, though, with us? Is that the way it is? We just pick a side and decide that side's right. And then we close ourselves off the whole time saying how open we are, patting ourselves on the back for how evolved the person we are. We see this every day, don't you? Maybe not in your side. Maybe it's harder to see it in your side, but it's really easy to see it in the other side that we hate, or the other side that we look at as animals or inhuman, or we look at as wrong or dumb or lower level, whatever. Really, really easy. So I was doing that until my coach found me and beat me to a pulp, as some of you know who have listened to those calls, because we have them, available for you to check out in Accountability Immersion. And I learned to follow through, even when I hated it, even when I disagreed, even when I thought it was ridiculous or dumb or against my, my thoughts and feelings and beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Limiting beliefs, and Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, like limiting beliefs stop you. No, they really don't. Now, if you have limiting beliefs that you let stop you, and then you change those limiting beliefs, so you have other beliefs that empower you, well, then, yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to say those limiting beliefs were limiting you, right? But you could just do something that goes against your beliefs. You could do that too. That is actually doable. I proved it to myself when I actually went through this first stage of actually the beginning of power, not increasing it, but I just had this little tiny, tiny foothold in a reality that was not real to me because I didn't believe it. I didn't buy in. I just did it because my freaking horrible, evil, hateful accountability coach, who was a jerk, made me do it, or I didn't say made you do it, but you get the idea. Like, they were like kind of the enemy at the time, but I was just like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I just took it on. I was just like, I hate to say I was open enough because I wasn't, but I was open enough to be open even when I was not open. That's exactly right. Yeah, thanks for that, Maria. She says, if you want a political fight, bring it on, right? We're just raring for that, aren't we? We're just raring for it. It's like, where's the other side that I can make wrong, right? Where's the other side that I can be righteous about? Where's the other side that I can be close to even though I'm open, right? It's exactly what we're doing when we don't even have any power because we're stuck in our own kind of box. Ife, okay. All right, good. I think I got that right now. I don't know. You can keep correcting me. So the point of the matter, though, is that I finally kind of got beyond myself just for a moment. And that was the beginning of power for me. Just the beginning. I saw some light at the end of the tunnel. And by the way, the reason why was not because it's like, oh, my life is so much better now. But I noticed, I was like, if I look at what I've gotten myself to do that I would never have done had this coach not coached me, I thought, something's going on here. This is powerful that actually she got me to do these things. And really, I got myself to do it utilizing and leveraging that coach, right? So that was like, let's put it this way. It was like a eureka moment because I thought for a second, gosh, if I can do these things that I don't want to do, that I'm against doing, so to speak, right? That I would never have done. That for me is a breakthrough. It doesn't mean my life will break through and my life will be so different, but it's a personal breakthrough. It's like a personal victory, if you will, right? So I got that personal victory, and I got the, since I was a coach at the time too, I was like, hey, if this coaching did this to me, I should like learn this stuff. And that's when we started, hiring accountability coaches and creating the training that trained accountability coaches as well. Because we realized it's not just a bunch of strategies. Like, we can't just teach you to do a bunch of stuff. In fact, this guy I'm listening to right now, his name's Alex. He has a $10-20 million a year business. And he said, I used to teach people how to start these businesses, how to make, millions and millions of dollars and make this huge impact on the world. And I stopped because I realized that I could teach them all the strategies, but they'd all fail still. It's like, wow, that's interesting. He taught them how to do what he did that worked, and yet everybody failed. Look, you gave them the secrets. Like, that should be like, hey, it's like they should all be millionaires, right? But he said what I just said just a second ago. He couldn't get them to make their beds. And again, think of that like not really making your bed, although there are studies evidently, which is weird, that you can actually see the correlation between like wealth and success and how often somebody makes their bed. It's like, really? But I guess there's some correlate. There's like people that have a tendency to like make their beds. They also have a tendency to produce extraordinary results. And I think the reason for that is what I'm talking about here. It's like, who wants, like, hey, I'm just going to go to sleep again tonight. It's like, why bother? This is kind of dumb. But they get themselves to do it anyway, like despite themselves, right? I'm headstrong. What was that? I think that we're kind of making the same point. I'm headstrong and I have to do things I hate, like charge people. Right. Yeah, you kind of, and you don't even really have to, but you have produced the result of causing yourself to. That's the beginning of power, right? It's just the beginning of it. It's not the end of it. It's not increasing your power necessarily, but you got yourself to do it. If you charge for that first person, it's like that could be like, that really could open the door to a whole new realm of what's possible for you, right? Where it's like, I hate doing that. I'm not going to do it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's really, really perfect. That's a perfect example. So anyway, I got that for myself, and I got that the coaching was what produced that, this accountability philosophy or this accountability technology, right? And so I said, this is exciting. I don't have any really results yet, but it's exciting. I started producing results with clients pretty immediately because I was inspired. But then, and I shared this a couple weeks ago in another live stream, I immediately started meeting with failures. I thought, wow, this is really exciting. We have this great team, these great coaches, and these great people who we should partner with, and we should all team up because, like, together we're stronger. And anybody who knows Master Coach University and the way that I talk about like what we're up to here, it's like it's all about a team approach. It's not about like just me and like I'm the guru and like I just do it all myself or anything like that. I mean, there's people that could do that, and that's, you know, more power to them. That's definitely not me. Okay, I want to share my results with others. I want to also have a life along with what I create, so I have some time off, so other people can, you know, can actually do some of the work as well and have some of the credit and some of the money along with that. Like, not a do it just DIY all the way type of person, right? But so anyway, I pursued partnering with some really powerful people. I totally failed. Like I would go to them, I'd meet with them, and they'd say, you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and you're not this yet, and I'm not going to work with you because this is going to hurt my reputation, and on and on and on. You know, they really get in my face about stuff, and I would just go run away with my tail between my legs, thinking, gosh, you know, I didn't say the right thing. I didn't influence them the right way. I don't have the right tricks yet, the right turn of phrase to like get them to like enroll in my vision or something. Because I thought I had to fix that. I had to have some kind of special trick, right? Because I had been trained at the time, after spending years with Tony, in manipulation, sales, seduction, you know, all influencing techniques. Nothing like wrong with that stuff. It's just that they're, at the end of the day, they're almost like they're short-term tricks rather than something that creates long-term leverage and power for you. Make sense? Hope it does. So that's what I was trying to do, and it wasn't working out. And, you know, I just couldn't follow through and follow up for and with my partners in a way that they wanted to be partners. And so over time, I eventually started to attract a few partners just because I more got lucky than anything. And these weren't amazing partners, and they were pretty troublesome. But I really was like, okay, I got a few partners. I got a chance here. I want to really make the most of these partnerships. But then what I found was these partners needed my team to be awesome, and they needed all this other results that I couldn't produce by myself. Like I said, I wanted to take a team approach, and I had a team, but they weren't following through at the level that they needed to. And I realized, gosh, you know, now that I've got some partners and some possibilities, I'm failing to get others to just get over themselves. And I would have like these annual retreats with my team, and we all get together, all these coaches, right? Same room. They'd all fly in from different parts of the world, parts of the country, and we'd sit down together and we plan out our business. We talk about what's next and kind of get everybody riled up, and not like a motivational thing, but more like a strategic vision type of thing. And they would just throw each other under the bus. They would get into fights. They would kind of like, it was chaos. It was a mess. And I was failing again, even after all the work I'd done, all the progress I'd made, all the stuff I thought I'd done. Like I should be arriving by now. And here my team can't even get over themselves. And so I blamed them and I was righteous about it for a while. But then I realized, I was like, you know what? If I can't help my own team who's got this training and they know this stuff, they know the philosophy, they understand the technology that we've been teaching, they've gone through the trainings. It's like, I can't even help them. How the heck are we going to help our clients? And then how the heck are we going to ultimately be the powerful team that we need to be, we should be, and we could be for those CEOs that can give us the $1 million, like I said at the beginning of this thing, right? So I was like, okay, now how do I handle that? And then slowly I started to learn how to actually help and coach and spend time with and really work through, like kind of had to whittle, not whittle out, but kind of ferret out the people who were going to spoil the bunch, so to speak, some rotten apples. But I also had to take the ones that were still not spoiled, and I had to really cultivate my relationship with them. I had to really work with them and be a really great shining kind of example, a role model, if you will. But on top of that, I had to somehow communicate what I had brought to myself to them. And I had to always be like one step ahead so that I could lead them to the next step, kind of set the pace as a pace setting leader would. So it was drudgery. It was hard. It was frustrating. But slowly I started to get team members that were on board, team members that would follow through. Some of those partnerships ultimately weren't working out because I wasn't influencing the partners at the level that I needed to. And we lost huge partnerships, like millions of dollars worth of business throughout that time period. And I lost team members as a result of that also because, things went sideways many times, not just once or twice. And we had to reinvent the wheel again and again and again, reinvent the team, and my team would turn over. But I kept kind of trying to move it to the next level, or just kind of redo what we'd already done. Like kind of like, remember the story of Honda, like during World War II, we would go over US. I don't know if you're in the US, but the US would go over, we'd bomb Japan, and then Honda's factory would be destroyed. They'd rebuild the factory, and he'd pick up the bombs and like say, hey, this is raw materials. These are gifts from President whoever, Eisenhower, I guess at the time, and or Johnson, I think. I don't. History lesson, please. But he would like use the raw materials that we would bomb him with to rebuild the factory and start building the motorcycles and the equipment again, so they could actually rebuild their business. And I did that a lot with my team. Finally got to the point where I had some really great team members who were really motivated, and they had gotten over themselves in a way. And that's not that long ago that occurred. I mean, like literally like last couple of years, that's finally started to happen. So I got this great team now all of a sudden, and they're starting to work at a level that I've never seen before with any other team in the past. And then I still failed. I failed to get that team to work together, to like work on, like I got them to work on their stuff, like where they were over themselves, their own limitations, so to speak. They could break through that for their own purposes. But like they still weren't working on like my stuff, my vision, the things that I was creating for this business. And I struggled for years. Like I eventually kind of almost gave up. I stopped having meetings and just said, hey, you guys are just going to do your own thing, and I'm just going to have to work on my thing for a while. Like really great people, right? But just not on board with like what I was doing, right? And in fact, they would point at me and they would say, you're kind of a warning because things aren't working out very well for you. And like, why would we want to be on board? And so I realized, I've really got to get my stuff together, and I've got to figure this out. Like, how do I get these people to actually be productive and work together on one thing? Not just like you'd have like 7 or 8 people on the team and they had 7 or 8 goals and they all go off in different directions. That's not a team. It was just a bunch of people that like were really evolved people for themselves. Kind of, I'm just in it for me kind of thing. Does that make sense? And so nothing was going to happen. There was no power. And we had power for ourselves. I had the power I had when I first was coached a decade earlier. So 10 years have gone by, still no more power for me, right? And I was having all these breakthroughs, getting new partners, finally inspiring people. I could follow through for them, because I wasn't following through for my partners. I finally learned to follow through for them, and then getting other people to follow through for themselves, and then still no team. And then finally, last couple of years, got a couple team members actually follow through for us, not just for them, for the whole, not just for one part of the whole or just their part in it. And just what's, WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? Like, that's the song we all listen to at some point, me. Finally got them over themselves. Reminds me of, there was a time when someone showed up at my doorstep, kind of virtual doorstep, like a phone call, and they said, I want to work for you. I want to do this for you. I want to provide this for you. I want to build your funnel. I want to help your sales. I want to, I want to be your client. Like, I want this for you, not just for me. I want to give you something. And that surprised me. I was like, that never happened to me before. Like, somebody's actually just coming to me and saying, here, can I give this to you? Like, something I really wanted, and that was part of my vision, not theirs. Because I was used to, like, okay, what can I do to help you? Like, what's your vision? Like, what are your goals? Like, that's kind of the coach's thing. So it was really surprising for me. And when that happened, I thought, what had that happen? Like, what made that person show up? And I realized in every instance that it started happening just fairly recently, it had been because they saw that I actually had been able to follow through for others. I actually had produced results for myself and others, and that I had created a more abundant environment for more than just me. I had increased my power just a little bit beyond myself, right? And they saw that, and I think they wanted to reciprocate. I think they saw something for themselves, but they also saw that if they were smart, they played their cards right, they could give something to me and really be in it for the team, not just for themselves alone. Like, think of it like somebody who thinks with another level of abundance, that abundance mentality of like, hey, we want the rising tide to raise all the ships, not just my own ship and everybody else drowns, right? The every man for themselves type of mentality. That's what I was dealing with before. So, surprised me. And even just in retrospect, it makes me realize, gosh, that's what it was. That's insane. And it also reminds me of, if you ever watch those Steve Jobs movies, there's I think there's 2 of them out now, both, different actors, both very well done, right? And I can't remember which one, but I think it was one of them where, maybe both of them, it was like this, but one of them, there was a scene where they had the Apple II, I guess, and they were going to the computer expo, and it was like land of nerds everywhere, right? And they had their booth, and the guy shows up, Jobs is walking to his booth, right? And, it's just people milling around everywhere, and he's pushing through this crowd. He's pushing through this huge crowd of people, and he's trying to get to his booth. And then suddenly he shows up. He can't figure out what the crowd's for, and he bursts through the crowd, and he's at his booth, and he realizes the entire crowd is there to watch him present the Apple II. Like, hundreds of people, like, who could go to any other booth on the face of this huge, floor for this convention floor, I guess you'd say, trade show, if you will. And I think it was like at the end, he gave his presentation or something, or maybe under his breath he said this, but he said, finally, people are coming to me. I'm not just having to go to them. And that's kind of how it felt to me when this kind of, the tables kind of turned. It's like I labored to this point, right? So that was, that's when you really see, it's like he saw real power. He had increased his power. He worked in the garage for a long time. Nobody cared, right? He got a couple other people to kind of work with him on his thing. Didn't really work out yet. Then finally got to this point where it's like all of a sudden everybody wants a piece of me. Everybody wants my computer. Everybody wants a Apple whatever, now an iPad or whatever it is now, right? Everybody wants those things. We're all waiting for Monday, right? Monday's the next WWDC talk. Everybody wants to see what's the next product going to be, what's the next iteration of the iPad and the i this and that, right? So it's like he'd increased his power. It wasn't just the beginning of power for him; he'd increased it, and that's what I had experienced these last 2, 3, 4 years in iterative ways, where suddenly somebody came to me and said, "I'm here to help you with your vision." Not my vision. I mean, my vision, I had to make it big enough and encapsulate enough people so they could see their vision inside of mine in a way. But it happened. And so now, my vision, if you will, my kind of selfish thing that I'd like to see happen, it pays me for things that I didn't even do because there's other people doing things on my team, in partnerships that produce the pay. And I get to see that. I saw that yesterday. We had I don't know, we made like $50. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Now I had something to do with it where I caused it to happen because I had created a vision and encapsulated other people and taught them how to use it. And there was a lot of stuff that led to that point. But that $50 came from someone else's labor, 100% of their vision, that my vision just happens to encapsulate. So I had a whole day with my family yesterday, and like, oh, look, it's free money coming in. And people, because I know what that money represents, it represents someone's life being changed for the better. Some business that's going to be developed better because that consultant is working with my tools and taking advantage of the opportunity to really impact somebody in a special way. That's going to change the world in ways that, like, yeah, that's my vision, but I didn't do that, right? It's going beyond me now. It's increased my power. That's exciting for me. So my vision actually pays me, and it pays me in terms of impact as well. It impacts people, and it impacts me in a positive way, money-wise too. It pulls me forward too, because it's like when things get momentum like this, it's like, hey, I want more. It's like, get a little more greedy. It's like, I want to create more of this, more income. I want to create more transformation. It's like, when you start creating a result that can truly create more abundance for you and others in your life, it's like you get kind of hungrier for. People say, hey, if I get too successful, I'm satiated. I'm going to be fat and happy. I'll just get lazy. It's not true at all. We just don't see this. To get to the point, I told my partner this the other day, if we're going to get to the point where we can be lazy, we won't ever want to be, because we're going to be people who we've broken the lazy bone. Like we've gotten to the point where we've overcome so much of our own laziness that, like, then when things are working out and we don't have to do the work, we're gonna be like, hey, I want to do some more work. Like, let me add them. I want to make some money and have some fun today. I want to change some lives. It's like, it just starts, you get hungry. That's what happened with Jobs. I mean, no matter what people think about Jobs, it's like the end of his life. I mean, he was dying, but he was also dying to get back to work. He's like, I remember there was something where he was talking about, I'm back in the office again. I'm loving every day. Like, some people would think, what you go in the office, you work on like strategic partnerships at a really high level. Okay, that's interesting. But at the end of the day, you're pushing the mouse around your desk, you're signing contracts, you're coming up with a new product. And it's like, that sounds like work at the end of the day. It's like, I just want to go have some fun. I want to go surfing. When I go watch a movie, he's excited to do the hard stuff. And the reason why was because his vision had gone beyond him to the point where it pulled him forward to want even more. It's exactly what I experience now. And this vision, it expands and it impacts people without me as well. So, like I said, that check we got the other day, it was not a check, it's just like these emails that say that you got, somebody dinged your account or something for $50. So that impacted somebody that I had nothing to do with me. It was like, I wasn't there, but they still got impacted. They still got the result. They still got the benefit of that. And it expanded to those other people without me also. So it's like the drop in the water that makes the ripples. Is like, I see those ripples happening, and I'm not the ripple. I'm just the pebble that dropped into the water. I got to actually create that then. And This happens with like video production nowadays. Like you'll see a lot on our like YouTube channel. You'll see my team is making videos. By the way, if I'm the talent on the video, they're still like actually processing and posting and doing all the post-production. If you see like one of my team on the video, like Chris Thompson, he's always on those videos. It's like, I'm not the talent anymore. It's like, he's the talent. He's like, does better videos than I do, frankly, at this point, at least. You know, I want to give him a run for his money, but more power to you, right? So videos are happening without me now. Our programs, like if you're in accountability, you know, my team is running the program. Like I show up and do these things. I run the trainings once a week, but other than that, I just meet with my team and check in with how they're doing, and they make the thing happen. Like I don't have to be there for that. The program could happen without me. For years, this has been happening sales-wise, right? Like nobody enrolls in my programs anymore through me. They do it through my team, right? So it's like all this is happening without me, and it happened as a result of what I just shared with you. That's a roundabout way of explaining the steps that I'm about to share with you explicitly, that were really, again, the part that I'm going to say you didn't understand, but I don't know really, but chances are there was not the level of depth of understanding of the first statement that I made until I can share it with you in a way where it really gets gotten. So I gave you the story form of it. Now I'm going to give you the how-to, the exact steps. And there's just 4 of these, 4 steps to increase your power. The first step is one that if you're in our training, you already took this step, which is what I call defy your karma. Defy your karma. Think of your karma like your circumstances, right? It's like all the seeds you've planted, all the stuff that you've done, good and bad and whatever, that's created your life as it is right now. Not like good or bad, but it's just like, that's your life. That's the life you got. This is how it all worked out. And if you want to create anything beyond that, you can't be a slave to that karma, because then you're just coasting. Now, people will say, hey, I started this business, and now the business is making 1,000, it's making 2,000, it's not making 1 million, it's making 2 million. You didn't really defy your karma. You're just coasting on the same thing that you started, right? So Werner Erhard talks about this when he talks about what he calls the drift. And the drift is this idea of pushing the rowboat out to sea. Like the rowboat sitting at the dock, it's just sitting there stuck, right? You untie the little knot, and then you jump in the boat and you push yourself off from the dock. That push was real power. That's the beginning of power. Like I said, it's like that push that I gave myself when I took the coaching from Meg, and I really didn't believe her. I didn't really agree with her. I didn't think much of it, but I did it anyway, right? I did what I didn't want to do, what I didn't believe in, what I wasn't open to. I was open when I was not open. That's real open, right? And so I defied my karma in that moment, right? It was the beginning of power. And so when you push yourself off from that dock, you can see, hey, I'm not at the dock anymore. Congratulations. Now, that doesn't mean you completed your journey, but you push yourself off from the dock. But what happens is people after that, they notice that they're still making progress. Why? Not because they did anything, not because they actually had any power or they increased their power, but because, look, when you give a boat a push, it just kind of drifts. It's just drifting. And what most people call progress is really just what Werner Erhard would call the drift. You got to you're just drifting. You're not actually pushing. You're not actually creating anything. You're not defying your karma, like I said. You're not, doing what you're not really wanting to do. You're not just like putting your word above all else and having tremendous integrity. You're just drifting. And your drifting looks like progress. Why? Because, well, there's a vector for the drift, and it's just kind of like moving along. It's like, look, we're making progress. Look, I can see the water going by. I can see the land is like I'm going in that direction, right? Making progress. It's not really progress, so to speak. It's what people call progress. It's really just drifting, right? So better than nothing. Like at least you're not stuck at the dock anymore. But being out there on the rocky seas, you could drift into the wrong shore. You could drift into a shipwreck. You could drift into drowning or starving, right? Like I don't like those odds, right? So defying your karma is defined by being your word to yourself. So my coach says, do this. I'm agreeing to follow my coach's request. So I'm going to make a commitment to do what they said. And I'm going to be my word to myself because my selfish self says, let's do that. That's it. Just being your word to yourself. Defy your karma. Most people that I see that can't get out of their own way, that like their lives are really not going well, and they're constantly like blaming everybody else for their life, or they're, even if they don't blame other people, like they know better, they still can't like take it 100% on that they own their entire life. Like they're going to take responsibility for their entire life. They're just like going to be responsible for like a little part of it, and the rest of it they're not really responsible for. So what they do is they're not going to be their word to themselves. I did a couple years ago, there was a client of mine going through a really tough time. And I said, okay, you got to be your word. You got to do this and this and this. And she agreed. She said, yes, I agree. That's what I'm going to do. I'm giving my word to myself to do that. And then instantly, as soon as she gave her word to that, like the next week, not really instantly, but the next week, I saw her, I literally observed her breaking her own word. And she was just so upset. She was like, oh, it's because of this. It's because of this. You know, couldn't even defy her own karma. Why? Like you blame it on the karma, like, oh, my husband said this, right? Or, well, that prospect was a jerk, right? But if really, it's just like you couldn't even be your word to yourself that you actually promised, hypothetically, that you were going to do, right? So, okay, got to be your word to yourself again, right? Defy your karma. So that's that first step in increasing your power. This is what you've already done if you've been through this training, is you've got the beginning of power. If you can't even defy your karma, you can't defy what your life and your circumstances are already dictating, your already existing family, your already existing culture, your already existing business, your already existing job, your already existing, fat gut, or butt or whatever, your already existing, disease, whatever. You can't defy that. You're not going to defy that. You can't even get started. You're dead on arrival here. So that's just the beginning of power. But that's not what I'm talking about today. But we got to start somewhere. So that's starting somewhere. You pushed off from the dock. You're drifting somewhere. You got the diet program. You said, I'm divorcing. You said, I'll go ahead and try this new dating program. You said, I'm going to go ahead and get this new job, or I'll quit my old job. It's like, okay, congratulations. That's a start. It's a start. It's not the end all be all. It's the beginning of power, though. Okay. Step 2. Only 4 steps, by the way, so we'll get there. Step 2, I call this, it's never handled. Because when you defy your karma, you're going to think it's handled. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. I'm amazing. I pushed off from the dock. I said no to that person. I said yes to that person. I quit my job. So like, this is hard, right? To defy your karma. Because they're so busy blaming and being, guilty, or, like deciding our life is just never going to change. It's like we're so busy with that we can't even like we can't even get out of our own way. So you got out of your own way. It's like, wow, I'm amazing. Like, this is it. I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm good. My life is cooked, right? And the message of step 2 is it's never handled. You're going to think you got it handled. You're going to be so excited after step 1. That's the way you probably are right now in training with me. If you're in this training, you're like, yeah, yes, I'm awesome accountability coach. I got all these people to follow through. I did all this other stuff. My life is different now. Woohoo! It's like party time, right? You're going to think it's handled. And I'm here to tell you, in step 2, which is you're about to enter into, this is your step, it ain't handled. In fact, it's never handled. And you think it is. That's why you're not done. That's why, like, your power, this is what's going to happen. You're going to defy your karma, you're drifting, and then that new business doesn't work, or that new relationship doesn't work, or that new diet doesn't work, or that new boss doesn't work. And you're like, see, it doesn't work. This stuff is crap. Right? Well, you defied your karma once, you thought it was handled, and then your karma just went right back into effect, and you went right back into the same deep red mass of crap that you were in before, or worse. Because sometimes the reason why we didn't do that one thing is because it's kind of scary, because it creates some risk, and all of a sudden the risks start haunting you, right? So that's why step 2 is needed, because if you can't get that you don't have shit handled, like you're not even close to having yourself handled or your life handled, even after you have this amazing breakthrough, then you're basically, you're not dead on arrival, but it's going to get worse probably for you, not better. That's what happens to 99% of people that actually start with this. It's never handled though. Now you can call this managing your own success. Some people, they'll have some success and they're like, yes, I'm successful. So you got to manage that to some extent, but just think of it this way. Like you're patting yourself on the back, but you shouldn't be, or you can, but then you got to get over yourself and then right back into handling yourself. And this is where, instead of just being your word to yourself, because like you're in your selfish mode, this is when you got to start being your word to others, even if you haven't in the past. It's like, okay, now I'm going to let my coach work with me because they're on the outside looking in and seeing where I don't really have it handled. There's a client I worked with for over a year, and he just completed with me actually. And he's got this new client, and he's really doing well. He's getting paid good money. His money is handled now, so to speak. As you know, it's not really handled, but he thinks it is. And he's learning all these new techniques, and he's like really excited because those techniques are going to lead to new clients and all this extra business for him, he thinks. And like he just thinks he's got it handled. And like my job is to make sure he gets that it's not. Like he's got a long way to go and his work is not anywhere near finished, even though he thinks it is. And if he can't get that message, it's going to be really ugly for him, and he's going to blame other people again. He's going to go right back into step one. He's going to have to start all over again. So that is step two. It's never handled. Manage your success. Be your word to others. So that client's got to be their word to me, even when he's not into it, even when he doesn't get it. I'll do my best, but he may just not get it. He may just need to follow through. So being your word to others. Part of that also is like when you are actually creating something new, life is a team sport. So it's like working with others, having your team come on board with you, your family, your coach, your mentors, whoever. It's like, can you actually like commit to them and be your word to them? Because you can't do that. It's like nobody's going to want to be on your team. Nobody's going to play with you, right? And so the problem with this is that all alone, living in a vacuum as the hermit in your life or your business or your relationships or whatever, your power just dies right there. Now look at it from a competitive perspective. Like other businesses, competing businesses that have people power because they've got a big team, they're going to be way more powerful than you'll ever be by yourself because you don't have that team on board, right? If you can't be your word to your team, it's like you're screwed in business. You really are screwed because they're not going to stick around with you. That said, same thing with like family and same thing, like really a lot of personal stuff as well. It's like if you can't like have others on your, like if you've ever done something for your health reasons, but you hang out with a bunch of people that are unhealthy, like you wonder why you just go back to eating hot dogs and hamburgers, or you go back to like being lazy and just, chilling all day and no exercise. It's like, well, yeah, look at your peer group. Like you can't even be your word to that new peer group of people who have higher standards than you do, or have higher standards than your original friends did. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work out just all by yourself in loneliness for the rest of existence. Maybe. Not likely, though. And so in any area of life, like life is a team sport. You got to be able to be your word to others as well. That's the next step to increasing your power. Step two. All right, let's move on. Step three. Step three, I call this pay it forward. This is when you've got enough of a team, you've got enough going on where things are sustainable now. You didn't just start something, you finished it. It's actually happening. It may not be perfect, may not be easy. You might still be working really hard to make it happen, but like it's actually kind of working. This is when you really need to pay it forward. Now, as coaches, we love to do this, right? But sometimes if we're just running a business or we just have a family, it's like, I don't really want to share this with other people. You got to pay it forward. This is where you cause others to be their word to themselves. It's not where you impose your standards on them, but you help them to impose their own standards on themselves. So that's when you pay it forward. This is where you're being a good coach or a good team leader who's not just in it to make somebody do what you want them to do, but to get them to actually have the life they want. There's a business that's hired me years ago. They're huge coaching business. They do like $5 million a year. And they hired me to coach all their people. And the reason why the guy hired me to do it partially was performance. They wanted these guys to perform better and keep their finger on the pulse with how the team is doing and everything. But part of it was just like, they just wanted their team to have what the team could have for themselves. They wanted their team to have great lives, just what they wanted, just selflessly. they have more influence with that team as a result of that. So paying it forward is not just about like being selfless and being a bleeding heart. If that's you, that's great. I mean, I feel that way too. But part of this is, I don't want to say selfish, but it's self-serving in that if you give people enough for what they want for themselves, then you can move on to step 4. And step 4 is when you're truly expanding your power beyond just basics of what you can get for your own life. This is when you cause others to be their word to you for what you're after, not just what they're after. And this is what I was talking about in the story I shared. You know, not just people are coming to me, but people like want to partner to have me get what I want, and they'll see what they want inside of what I want. And so that's part of the secret of that, I think. But on top of that, when you can cause others to be their word to you for what you told them to do that they don't agree with, they don't think it's the best idea, that's when you truly expanded your power. When you can truly say something, somebody else does it, creates it, and they weren't even really on board with it, not like against their will, but like they were willing to let your will be their will for some period of time. That's the ultimate power. That's when any part of your life, your family, your friends, your businesses, your health, you know, whatever matters to you, right? Your societal impact, that's when that just expands and expands and expands and expands. That's, I mean, you look at religions, like great religions, this is what they do, right? They defy their karma. They reinvent who they are. I am the light, or I am the Messiah, or, you know, this is the key to, you know, to glory or to everlasting life, or whatever the story of that religion is. And then they manage their success by consistently living that out. And then they cause others to have what they want for themselves. They heal the sick, right? They give to, like, Buddha's story is huge. Like, Buddha just went around just like contributing to others, like selflessly, you know, is just tremendous generosity, right? Just like going on campaigns and just changing the world for the world's sake, not for their sake. And then finally, they expanded their power by other people wanting to follow them. It's like, okay, hey, I'm going to be a fisher of men for you. I'm going to get more followers for this thing. Like, we're up for whatever you're up for. I'll have what he's having, right? So that it's like the story of all great religions. It's like it gets paid for to the point where the Messiah, the originator of that religion, is dead for tens of thousands of years, maybe even. And yet the religion goes on and it continues to even expand. It inspires others even to this day because other people are still playing that out, right? So I'm not saying start a religion. I'm just saying it's like there is, in a way, almost a spiritual or an evangelical or a kind of a there is a mechanical aspect to building the brick by brick by brick of your ultimate cathedral. And the first brick is defy your own karma, get over yourself. Second brick is get over your closed-mindedness to your coach or your leaders, your gurus or your teachers or the people around you, your team, etc. The third step is help others to do those same two things, basically, pay it forward to them. And then step 4 is to get them to do it for you, for your purposes that encompasses theirs as well. You have a vision that's big enough that encompasses other people's visions. At some point, they're going to come along for the ride. That's increasing your power. So what I'm asking you to do as a coach who's on this journey with me, or in this training especially, is to be my brothers and sisters, so to speak, speaking of getting others to do what I ask them to do, and share this with your clients. Have your clients see these steps, the beginning of their power, shoving themselves away from the dock so they can at least be free to drift, and then actually getting a direction, following what you ask, and then causing others to follow what those others want, and then causing others to follow what they want as well. Those 4 steps. You share that with them, they're going to get, hey, this game has an end game to it. It's not just like do what my coach said and just be a slave. It's way more than that. Now, there's some basics to that, you know, like, hey, can I just follow through on what I promised? Sure. But this is not about being a slave to that, as y'all know who's gone through this training. And it's also not just about that. If that's all you get, you know, it's great, surprise. but it's not anywhere near as much power as you can have. Your power that's possible for you in your life is unlimited in a way. Essentially, for your purposes, it's infinitely unlimited if you use these 4 steps, because then you can take it beyond your own like little kind of micro world and you expand it beyond yourself. That's it. That's increasing your power. So if you got any questions about this, let me know. But I just want to give you this as an invitation for the future to, number 1, those of you in Master Coach University, go through Module 2 in Effortless Enrollment Mastery. We cover increasing your power. We cover this whole process, every conversation, every action, every mechanic. We give you step-by-step assignments, all the videos that cover the other philosophies around this piece and how this plays forward into expanding your business and your leadership and your community impact. Like, it just goes through all of that. And just like not a lot of people go through that. The reason they don't, because they probably haven't gotten beyond the first 2 steps. So get that handle for yourself, for your own purposes, for your own business. And as an accountability coach, bring this to your clients so they can increase their power too. And they have unlimited power in their life, or for whatever it is that they're going to create that, again, encompasses other visions, so that they can have the generosity in their vision such that they can expand. Because most of the time, the things that people want to expand are so selfish and self-serving and so small-minded. It's like, no wonder that thing's not going to expand. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little vision. Your vision's too small, so to speak. I'm not saying yours, but I'm saying that client's vision is in a way too small. So that's how they can get that handled. It's going to take some real breakthroughs, and not everybody can do it, but that's why you're coaching them through this. And it's not just some how-to course. I gave this in a how-to course. It's just going to fall flat. It's going to be dead on arrival. All right, guys, take care, and I will talk to you next time. Actually, and speaking of that, this is our last accountability live stream. So if you guys have been listening to these, they're going to be taken down. So make sure you go through the rest of them. And then finally, I'll look forward to working with you in the next immersion training, of course. And then beyond that, just go practice this stuff now that you're done, or you're about to be done with accountability training and your coursework there. Once you're certified, it's like, go use what you've learned with your clients. And it's not always easy. Not everybody's open to this kind of rigorous accountability, but that's why you're the coach. You're there to use the art of your effectiveness with people and your communication style to dance with them to the point where they actually get these steps and start living them out in their way, not your way. All right, take care. Talk to you next time.